heard. They want their stories validated. They want their experiences validated. And that's a big part of being a social worker. I mean, I think we're great at being resource masters and advocating for people. But I think one of the best gifts that I have is I can listen for hours sometimes to someone's story who might have not had that opportunity to share that.
Hi, and welcome to TLC Connections podcast. My name's Julie Knudsen. I'm the Director of Development here at the Lincoln Center, and I'll be your host today. And today with us, we have Isabel and Kate. They are part of the Radnor Police Department Community Support Unit. Officer Kate brings her experience in community-centered policing to a role that focuses on crisis response and de-escalation. Working alongside her is Isabel, a licensed clinical social worker who provides behavioral health assessments, intervention, and connection to care for individuals experiencing mental health or substance use crises. Together, they represent a collaborative co-response model that blends law enforcement and clinical expertise, helping ensure that individuals in crisis receive compassionate, appropriate support while maintaining community safety. So thanks so much for being here, you guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
And if we can just get started, start with you, Officer Kate, just to kind of give a little bit about your backgrounds and what led you to this role.
Sure. I've been with Radnor Township I'm approaching 8 years at this point. Prior to my career in law enforcement, I worked as a victim advocate in Chester County. So I have a little bit more of a unique background than some other officers where I started victim-centered and was able to move that into another field. Our program started in 2023, October of 2023. Myself and Isabel and 3 other officers and a sergeant. So there's 5 of us total and a social worker, Isabel. We're the 4 that primarily respond with her. And I'll let her talk about what she does when she responds. But we have more specialized training than some of the other officers where we've done the Lincoln Center trainings. We're focused on domestic violence, mental health, substance abuse, and we're just able to respond with a little bit of a different mindset.
So I I've been working as a social worker for the last 10 plus years. I was primarily in victim advocacy, working in homeless shelters, primarily with survivors of domestic and sexual violence. And then I saw the posting for this job and the idea of starting a program from the ground up. So yeah, it started in October with just an idea, really, and reached out to a few different other co-responders and have been able to form a program and a unit that I think fits the township that we live in, but also the county as well. So yeah, I work alongside the officers. They work 11 to 11, 7 days a week. And then I work 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, but I'm really always on call, which I prefer. I don't mind it because I would rather them call to ask those questions. And I like to say it's kind of split into 3 areas. So we do real-time co-responding, de-escalation, crisis intervention, follow-up after any call, and then officer wellness is a big part of our program that we've been focusing on in the last year.
So when you say real-time calls, kind of learning more about the space and people kind of conceptualize, are you literally riding in the car with the officer,
Yeah, I've done ride-alongs. What we found that's worked for us is I'm in the department physically with them, which I think there's a lot of benefit to being in the building with them because I'm very accessible. So what we have found is helpful is we'll be listening to the radio, and if there's a call that comes through that we think it's appropriate, or if they call us out, one of the officers is either close by or can pick me up, and then we'll go to the call.
And Kate, so interesting. Both of you guys came from community-based services, almost this theme of victim support, victim services. How did you transition? What led you to law enforcement?
I get this question a lot. I got a little burnt out, I would say, being on the back end of victim services, where I'm meeting with someone that's already gone through crisis, and I wanted to do more to get on the prevention side of crisis and be able to assist people at the moment instead of working through the court process, which victims will always need assistance at that point. But I wanted to be able to shut down the crime
before
that got
they
them there.
You on the other.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
When you started with Radnor Township Police Department, this unit didn't exist.
It did not. Nope.
So you didn't think this is where you would be?
Correct. It's where I hoped I would be. I didn't know that this would ever be a possibility. And I would say that the other officers as well didn't ever anticipate this program. And I think we were the first in Delaware County to have, we might still be the only, to
I was
have
just
an
going to
embedded
ask,
social
I think
worker.
you're the only one.
Yeah,
Where she's not, Isabel's not contracted. She is with us.
Yeah.
And
fully embedded.
Right.
yeah, that has been such a benefit.
And you were talking, I'm curious how, whoever wants to feel that way, you were saying the benefit of being there all the time.
I think the biggest benefit is I'm super accessible to them. I think it helped with like trust building and rapport. Like officers can come to me whenever, if they have a question, if it's not a crisis. And I think just having me there and kind of very slowly getting their trust into their space made just a difference because they saw who I was and we could have conversations. And I always have snacks in my office, which is a big, I think that won them over more than anything. But I think just being so accessible. I know some other programs, are designed a little differently, but I think for us, what we have found is me being there in their space and kind of seeing what goes on is super helpful for me also to understand how their processes work and how they respond to calls. And
very different than typical social work. I know I'm learning more about this space as well.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Kate, what would you add to anything, or seeing the benefits of having Isabel there full time?
What you touched on is like the primary thing is having you physically in the building, having her in the building, as well as, which is still very fresh, very new, but the officer wellness part where she meets quarterly or yearly with officers. And it's just a brief introduction really into their life. And we're not talking about deep, dark secrets. It's here's a picture of my kids. Here's a picture of and it just helps build a little bit more unity amongst us.
Yeah, I understand culturally there's a little skepticism, cynicism,
absolutely.
Like everywhere, but specifically.
Yeah, there's still pushback. Isabel feels it more than I do, but I think we're making great progress.
Because my understanding, even like through FOP, a wellness check, you can show up, but you don't have to talk.
Yeah. They're just popping into our office for a chat. It's not. And there's officers that decline. It's their choice. They absolutely can.
I mean, can they decline to even meet with you, or they can meet with you in silence?
They can decline. The first year we did it, because now we've done it 2 years. The first year I kind of framed it like, this is just getting to know me. Because I think if you know who I am and I know who you are, then you're going to feel confident in what you send my way and vice versa. So that's how we framed it the first year. And we got a great turnout the first year, like much better than I was anticipating. And then the second year, we have one squad that does it twice a year because they have found a lot of benefit in that. So I think just kind of framing it that this is us getting to know each other, because I think when you know who you work with better, not like outside of work too, you're going to trust that person. It's going to create a sense like unity that might have not been there before, which I think makes a difference in how we respond.
And it sounds informal. There's no documentation. Do you have to report anything with those quote wellness checks, or?
No, I mean,
it's all confidential.
It's all confidential. Yeah. And I will say our admin, our command staff doesn't want to know, even if people don't show up, unless it's like if there was a concern. But in general, they're very hands off with it. They encourage it, obviously. I think Chief has a lot of passion for officer wellness. So I think they know that. But in general, it's always confidential. I don't document anything.
So can we move on a little bit? Like, tell me some of the calls. Like, what does that look like together?
I would say our top 3 calls, like pretty consistently within the last year, have been adolescent mental health, boys ages 12 to 15 specifically. Domestic violence seems to be always pretty consistent. And then we've been seeing a lot more elderly issues. So individuals that are living alone, that are isolated, dealing with hoarding. We have a good amount of hoarding calls that we've gotten within the last year. So those are our top 3 that I would say pretty consistently for like the last 6 months that we've been dealing with.
So what does that look like? I mean, and I'm learning so much in this field that people call 911 for things I would never think you would call 911 for that aren't criminal, So how does, I guess I'm getting in the weeds. What does that look like? Because you're not getting the 911 call, or are you?
So I have a radio, so I can hear all the calls that come through. Normally what will happen is if it's like during the day and I'm there, one of them will call me and say, hey, did you hear that domestic come in? Or did you hear that mental health call? Or sometimes officers will call us and say like, hey, we got this call. Can you come out? So that's one way that we respond. I would say the biggest way that we usually get involved is that follow-up piece. So I have access to their reporting system, and I will go through, and the sergeant will go through and kind of tag anything that feels appropriate for me. I would say the coolest moment for me when I started this job was when I started seeing officers actually tag me in those reports for follow-up, and I was like, oh, like they see the value in it. That was a really cool, like I could take a breath a little bit. And then, so we get a lot of follow-up in responding to calls that way within 24 to 48 hours after an incident. And then we have walk-ins, cold calls. We've have people from other agencies connect us. We work with the school district quite a bit, so we try to connect when it's appropriate, and we have the permission to connect. But that's, I don't know if that answered the question. That's kind of.
It does. I just think it's really interesting when you say we, because I kind of feel like the disciplines, I think it's great, right? Intersecting are so different, but you being part of the community support unit, when you say we, it's part of you, you're still working hand in hand with an officer, even though at that point, nothing's criminal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Huh. But you want to tell me a little bit about that, Kate? Like, because coming from, I guess, typical unit or whatever you call that, to transitioning to this unit, you know, how that works from your perspective. Yeah.
What I try to say to people is my job right now is to keep you out of jail. We're trying to prevent that next step where a crime's going to be committed. I'm trying to keep you out of an inpatient facility. We're doing our best to support you in this moment. And that involves bringing Isabel on the calls. There's plenty of people that I think the 4 officers have a different relationship with than other officers, but more importantly, a different relationship than Isabel has with them, where, you know, there's a guy that lives in town that's homeless that I can speak differently to him than Isabel will speak differently. I'm a little less clinical with him.
Can you give me an example? What do you like? What can you say to some? Or not
you know who I'm talking about, but I don't. Yeah,
no identifying. But I'm wondering, like, what's cop talk or how you address it? Not only police talk, but as a specialist in this unit.
Yeah. I think for the individual that I'm talking about specifically, going out to his house and being like, "What is going on here? Like, get it together." I was like, "We're out here again." I was like, "We're doing our best to help you. You're not helping yourself. Like, we got to be in this together." And then I said, "Do you want Isabel to give you a call?" And it's a yes or no. And then everything that anyone talks to Isabel about is confidential. So sometimes it's like, "Can you give us a little a clue into what's going on?" And she has confidentiality. We're just working 2 different angles of the same individual.
That's, I didn't think of that for sure. Mm-hmm. Or any officers are talking to you, but when you work in the field and you're following up, but are you putting notes in?
Yeah, I have a separate documentation system because we found that pretty early on that putting my conversations into their system was not a good idea to protect, you know, the rights of the people that I'm interacting with. I think the way that people talk to me is very different than the way they talk to the officers. I think, like, I don't wear a uniform. I wear lay clothing. I present very differently. But I think that benefits. Like, I think if someone's in crisis, they're going to respond differently to me than they might respond to someone that's in uniform. So, yeah, I have a separate system. I put very brief notes into their system that I just did a follow-up, or, hey, I made contact with this person, or I wasn't able to contact them. But in general, yeah, those conversations are totally separate unless something is happening, like a safety concern, that it would be appropriate for me. Or if the person's like, yeah, you can tell them. Because we do have some regulars, I think, that feel more comfortable with us and are okay with those conversations being shared, especially if we're working towards something that's going to benefit them in the long run.
Yeah, that I appreciate. I was wondering that as long as the person then gives you permission, because you want to have that communication, but safety, kind of our standard practice, you can share.
Yeah, I have a separate like release of information, like my documentation system, they don't have access to. I'm the only person that has access to that. And they don't want access. Like they're like, I don't, unless you need to tell me, I don't really want to know.
I may be wrong here, but I feel like the most that you use the ROI is with the school district.
Yeah, the school district, and sometimes with like victims assistance or a domestic violence agency, just because of those confidentiality. But yeah, those releases are in place to give me that permission. But most of the time, outside of those, people are generally okay with us sharing information.
And you're saying the school district's keeping you busy. Can you kind of maybe share a case? Obviously, no identifying information, but how you might help a student, a youth.
Yeah, I would say that there's 3 social workers over the high school, the middle school, and their elementary schools in Radnor School District, and they've been like a godsend to me. They've been a really big support. Obviously, they've been in this position, so they know a lot of resources and they know the township well. Where I get usually involved is like truancy. If there's truancy issue, I would say truancy and domestic violence are the 2 that we usually get involved. Something happened at home. The kid is in school, not acting, maybe acting off or a little withdrawn. And, we'll get those releases and make sure that everyone's okay with us talking and figure out like, how can we collaboratively help this child? It's the same with truancy. Why aren't they going to school? We'll do welfare checks and wellness visits on behalf of the school. To see like, hey, what's going on? Why aren't you going to school? And not just having the conversation with the minor, but having the conversation with the parents too, to try to figure out like, how can we support you as a whole before this turns into a more serious kind of situation.
Appreciate that example. That is a tremendous resource to the community and to the school. I would think that would be well above and beyond. I wouldn't think that's the school's role. Like, what are you, a truancy officer now? In a way, but it's community well-being.
Yeah, and I think we usually try to get involved before it has to go to a truancy officer, right? Like, because I think once that process starts, it can be a lot. And I've learned, not just as a social worker, but also being in this role, like it's the family that needs support most of the time. It's not just that one individual. And I think when they see not just their police and their school coming collaboratively to help them, we get a lot more buy-in with that than I think if it was just one side coming in.
Yeah, can you expand on that too, Kate, from your experience, again, from the 8 years from kind of frontline officer to this unit to Isabel, how you worked with the district prior or not?
I really don't have much to contribute to that.
But were you called as an officer? Like, would the district call police?
Yes,
before?
Yeah, they still do call us out, and that is where it won't necessarily be someone from our unit for a call. It'll still be someone from patrol, and then Isabel will assist with patrol. Less calls for sure since Isabel has started. But again, most of the calls that we get now are drug related. And I feel like a lot of the times on patrol, that's what we were getting called out for also, where we just didn't have this resource with Isabel to take some of the, I think they didn't know who to call in those situations. They didn't, it's truancy, but it's not, they were trying to handle in-house before reaching out to us. And it was really our administrative staff that felt the pressure of all those calls. That's where it would start there, and then it would get sent down to us.
So tell me a little bit then, when you refer to patrol, which is a different unit, like what does that look like? How do they refer to you? Patrol is, yes, I'm not answering the question very articulately, but you know what I'm trying to say? Yeah.
The community support unit.
Yeah, because it sounds like the patrol officers are referring to you as well. Is that right? The patrol may be out on a call and then they say,
that's correct.
Kate, this is you guys.
Yeah. The unit was created to take some of the more time-consuming calls away from patrol, so patrol isn't stuck on a call for 4 hours. Where that's what we're trained to do. That's what we're supposed to do. But there are times where, if it's a domestic or it's a family we've dealt with 12 times, patrol will go out and handle it and call Isabel and say, "Hey, we were out there again." Where it doesn't necessarily need a response from the four of us officers. They just really need to get Isabel back in touch with them.
So you would sometimes spend 4 hours on a call?
Oh yeah.
We just did.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Because sometimes it's, assisting with getting someone to the courthouse with PFA paperwork, or just getting parties separated till we can figure out where mom's going to stay for the night, dad's going to stay, where the kids are going to stay, calls like that. Or the walk-ins are the ones that really tend to, where they're walking in to make a report and we're starting from the ground, and it's going to take all day to get figured out what that person needs in the moment. There's calls that this individual has lived in town since she was a child. Substance abuse issues, mental health issues. Everyone is tired of her. Everyone was tired of dealing with her. But that's where our unit, we are able to assist her. And she really just needed someone in her corner for a little bit. That's what she needed, was someone to not say you've screwed up your life. Because that's what she was getting from every aspect of her life. And at this point, she's doing a lot better. She's employed. She was able to get an apartment on her own for once. But those are, we're taking phone calls from her 3 times a week because she just wants to talk. She just needs someone to talk to. And that's not the responsibility of patrol. it's like, I know you're doing your best.
Or of police in general. And now there's, I guess the next step is community support unit has a little bit more time, but it's a lane for a social worker, behavioral health professional.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would say the one thing that I've learned in this role is I think people just want to be heard. They want their stories validated. They want their experiences validated. And that's a big part of being a social worker. I mean, I think we're great at being resource masters and advocating for people. But I think one of the best gifts that I have is I can listen for hours sometimes to someone's story who might have not had that opportunity to share that. And this individual, I think no one was listening. No one was sitting with them and saying tell me what's been going on. And that not because they didn't care, they just didn't have the time or it wasn't within their role. Mm-hmm. And I think that's small because it's small, right? I don't think it's a monumental thing that we did, but taking that time to have those conversations, I think was monumental to that person. And that's a long game. I always tell when I present to people, I say the difference between me and an officer is I can play a long game. I can continually work with people and check in on them. And whereas that's not their job to do that. If they do that, that's amazing. But that's what I can do that I think benefits and supplements what they do.
So I'm curious, given this example, what were the calls, those frequent calls for? Was police finding criminal activity or was this person?
It was domestic related primarily. I mean, she's been Narcaned before. We've gone out to the house for that. A lot of, she just would go on drunken tirades, I'd say. And then either the father of her children would call or the neighbors would call. It was primarily substance abuse related.
But you had to react understandably and deal with that situation, make it safe, keep moving, and nothing, the root wasn't resolved, to your point, listening or helping.
And I would say that's one of the people that we could really speak to. I could tell her what was going on. I still to this day, that's someone that you've built a rapport with. You go out so many times. Other officers are she was doing the same stuff. Close the report. Where I'm she's doing the same stuff, but here's what she added on to it today. What else she disclosed today? Because she has a history of everything. Substance abuse. She was abused when she was a child. And she just wanted an outlet to speak on it. But most of the calls were coming out when she was drunk, and that's when she was willing to talk about it, is when she's intoxicated.
And you adding on to the report when you said that was now in your role in this unit.
Correct. Okay. And that's primarily, that's so that we can review what she's addressed, but that's for Isabel to read. When my report's done, Isabel could say, okay, she included this, this, and this, that we didn't previously know about her history.
It's a great example too. Obviously it's a win all the way around. It's just a great model, but it's patrol saying, not our wheelhouse. You're it.
Correct. Yeah.
You can handle it differently.
Yeah. There's always going to be people that are waiting for the next relapse for frequent flyers. And I think our unit is good at understanding when the relapse comes, we'll handle it. We know that this is part of their life. I don't expect her to be President of the United States. And I know at some point she's going to have a bad day again. It doesn't mean that she's going to relapse, but whatever it is for her, and we're going to get called out. It doesn't mean it's a failure for our system, which I think is takes a lot of convincing for some people. Is just because our frequent flyer is a frequent flyer again doesn't mean that we failed. We had a period of time where this isn't about her anymore. She's doing well now, but there's some people that, will have a lull for months and then they pop back up and they're like, I thought you guys were working on this. It's that was a win. They had 4 months of feeling normal and now we're back in this situation. It's fine. We roll with the punches.
Yeah.
So the patrol must love having you guys as well. Not only the community, the chief, but it's a niche again.
Yeah. It's this seems like a CSU problem. Here you go. That's fine. We'll handle it.
And is there a formal or informal process with that?
We have a formal process. It's just to speak with your supervisor, but also add in the incident attention CSU so that it's brought to our attention. And I think there were some concerns at the beginning that patrol's going to try to dump everything on you. They don't. Patrol handles. They do an excellent job. You've said multiple times. I feel like everyone's a social worker. We all
they really are.
We can handle our own. It's just when something's going to be a little bit more time consuming. Patrol's can you this is.
I've been on a couple ride-alongs even some years ago and was amazed how much was social work. I couldn't believe it. I never really intersected with law enforcement until this role recently. And to your point,
you're seeing someone on the worst day of their life, and you have to.
You got to. maybe have like a bias because I'm obviously working with Radnor, but I've been immensely impressed by like how every single person operates and how they respond. And it's maybe something I would notice because I'm trained to notice some of those things that they would never notice, but they really are. They're doing social work in real time and thinking on their feet and thinking about resources, and having me is just like an added benefit, I think, because I'm still sharing resources with them because I'm not always available, right? Like, so I think also empowering them to know like you can have those conversations, like that's okay. I think that's been a win in my role for sure.
Yeah, it sounds like lots of wins. And this role is, like you touched on too, the wellness part of it, to your point, just really appreciating. No one ever says like, hey, just having a great day, wanted to give you a call. You know?
Yeah.
Right. It's always something bad, you know?
Yeah.
So that really takes a toll on your well-being, and knowing that this, you know, whether it's an informal, right, I'm grabbing a piece of candy or just stopping by just to exhale, literally.
Yeah. I mean, I tell them all, like, one, they're masters at compartmentalizing. I wish that they could teach me how to do that because my brain doesn't operate like that. But the amount of stress, even on days that might be slow, the amount of stress that they all work under is a lot for any person. So I like try to keep my door open and say like, if you just want to sit here in silence for 30 minutes and that's what you need to feel better today, by all means, like, let's do that. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. There's no shame. And I think when other officers see people utilizing that, it kind of takes away maybe that stigma. I joke with them, like, I am not here to therapize you unless you want me to. We do not have to have those conversations. But I also, part of our wellness was I reached out to a ton of different clinicians in the area and have like my own vetted list of clinicians and practices that are culturally competent that I know that I would feel safe and comfortable referring our guys to. So they know that that's a resource. So I think we've created it. It's still growing, and I think we've really created a good foundation for it.
So have you been referring? Do officers trust you enough to say?
I've had, I want to say like 2 or 3 that I've reached out that took me by surprise. But I was also like, oh, it's happening. Not in a bad way.
Inside, right?
Like internally, I was like, oh, they trust me.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, and they've all worked out.
Well, to
really
your point,
wonderfully.
vetting and knowing, like they're finally making that step that you ensured it's going to be somebody competent.
Yeah. And I think, again, that being embedded, being in their space, having them know who I am, if that hadn't happened, I don't think that those conversations or someone reaching out like that, I don't think that would have ever happened if it was designed differently.
Talked about, appreciate the success story. Yeah.
So when I started, I think success in any kind of like co-responder is definitely personality, like making sure it's the right personality. And I think where I came from, I fit in, like a slow burn. I always joke that I was a real big slow burn when I started. I did not insert myself. I intentionally moved very slow to gain their trust and to show them. And I'll be honest, those like first 6 to 9 months were like, for someone that lives with anxiety, not great, because I was questioning myself a lot. And also I was the only one, so I didn't have a ton of people to bounce off what I was going through.
I know, to interrupt there, I just because the Lincoln Center, we're partnering and embedding, but we offer that clinical support. To know you're in a vacuum without that discipline is extra hard.
I would say that's the big, like, that's been a challenge. Luckily, I found like a group of other responders throughout the state that I meet with. And I have a few like Lower Providence that are trusted people that I know I can call and say like, hey, can I run this by you? Or even Nicole, like, hey, I have a situation. Can I just make sure I'm thinking about this the right way? But I do think if there was something more like regularly, that would feel helpful.
Yeah. And I was sorry to interrupt, but you were saying kind of the slow burn and questioning yourself. And
yeah, and I still do. I struggle with imposter syndrome like every day, but that was hard. And cops are hard to read, I think. And I'm a big body language person, so like
it's not reaffirming.
No. So that was hard. I would say the other biggest challenge, and one that we're kind of currently dealing with, is coordinating with like hire like the county, different not agencies so much. Delaware County is in the midst of a healthcare crisis right now with the closure of Crozier. And that's been hard because I think on the county, like they're in crisis. So how do we support people that are also in crisis trying to navigate those resources? That's been, for sure, I would say the biggest challenge. And getting buy-in from them too has been hard. But we're working on it. I'm doing a slow burn with them too. So, yeah.
And from your perspective?
I think it's from the beginning, it's been buy-in from the entire department that not just a fluff unit. Like we're actually making progress and doing things because progress to CSU is not going to be universally perceived as progress. I would say in terms of technicalities right now, this is probably Radnor specific, but the 302 process right now is a very big struggle because of the closure of Crozier. And we are so close to Bryn Mawr Hospital, which is
But that's
Montgomery
Monco,
County.
yeah.
Yes. So
what do you do? Where do they go?
Where do we stand right now? It's continuously changing.
Yeah, I mean, in that first year, I made a commitment that I was going to reach out and really foster some of those relationships, and Bryn Mawr was one of them. So I've been fortunate that I have a really good relationship with their ED social workers, with their psych social workers, with their care coordinators. And when Crozier closed, we were able to have a meeting with Montgomery County, like, hey, what is going to be, how can we make this work that's therapeutically appropriate, that's not such a burden on you? So we've been able to utilize them most of the time. And it's so much as like giving them a call, letting them know like, hey, we're bringing someone to you. These are the circumstances. And my argument always like, it's more therapeutically appropriate to take someone 2 minutes than 40 minutes. And they've been bought into that, I would say. Like I'm fortunate that we have that relationship.
Well, kudos to you. I mean, that's true social work on every level from micro, right? We say meso, macro, but to forge through that, which is not that you guys couldn't have done that, but knowing that's your wheelhouse and have the ability and time to develop that.
Was not always easy. We definitely had some very difficult conversations. And I think what I've learned is each county is very territorial on that. So how do we I'm big on collaboration. Like I think most social workers are. I think like collaboration makes sense in my head. So why should let's not reinvent the wheel. Let's figure out a way to do it easier. So I always try to approach it from that way. And again, communication I think is the big piece. Like if we weren't communicating in that way, I don't think that we would have been as fortunate as we are since Crozier's closed. So.
We recently met with a Montgomery County department that has a similar unit to ours, and it was interesting to hear their problems are not the same as our problems. No. Every department's going to be different, but just that county division, we have more issues on the technicality sides where they had a different set of complaints.
Right. It is so interesting because you're right there, like at the border, but you're not there. Yeah.
I joke. I talk to the delegate from Montgomery County often because he helps me understand certain things because that's definitely not my wheelhouse in general. I'm getting better at it, but like if I could just push Radnor over just a few miles, that would be wonderful. No, but we're learning how to navigate those systems. And I think as that system changes and a new provider comes in, I feel hopeful that we'll be able to foster a good relationship to prevent some of those challenges that have existed in the past.
You may have touched on it, but our Chester County crisis team is currently switching providers. We're in the process of switching providers, so we're a little stuck waiting for the new agency.
Right, which clearly has an impact. Do you got front line, right? Where do we take people?
But again, that's those relationships. Like myself and Chief have been.
You're on it.
And that's right. We know it's life anyway when you have relationships and can pick up the phone and looking out for each other.
And I think bringing him to those meetings and seeing his buy-in, it says a lot to those people.
So you mentioned, I just kind of want to go back a little bit to follow up something that you're able to offer in this role. You as well as a CSU officer, or is that all Isabel?
I provide support as needed. We try to get them to Isabel so she can provide ongoing support. But there's always going to be people in town that you have a relationship with, and it's sometimes just calling to check in, but primarily it's letting Isabel be the social worker and trying to uninvolve myself with some people.
And what does that look like? Like, how long will you follow up, or do people reach out to you? You know, you've been there a few years. Will they like swing back and be like, "Hey"?
I would say I probably have like 5 or 6
friends.
Friends. Yeah,
right?
No, they are. They are my friends.
But so over the years, like they have been with you.
Yeah, and I would say the length of like the longest I'll work with someone, I try to keep it within 6 months, because I think anything outside of that can get a little dicey of connecting them with something that is more like a solid long-term provider. But yeah, I would say most of my follow-ups are just a few weeks, like contact, if that. And that's mostly just getting them connected to the longer-term resource. Just because I think like everywhere there's wait lists and kind of that process, or if they need to get insurance, or connecting them with the right person. But yeah, so I try to follow up always within like 24 to 48 hours. And then like, hey, what is the immediate need right now? And honestly, for a lot of them, it's just talking. It's not necessarily even needing something. It's just having a conversation. And I do have a lot of people that will just call me just to do that, just to check in.
But then how you navigate that? You're not the 988 number, or the text a support
and
person.
I try to set good boundaries. It's not I'm not the best at it, but I try to, like, hey, if this is a crisis situation, I can direct you to that crisis. And I'm here to support you through that, but I'm not that resource. And I've gotten better and more confident at saying that, because I think there's a way to say it without making someone feel or get turned off by that. So I would say also, like, within Radnor, like, most people know that too. So it's pretty consistent about what kind of follow-up and how long I'll work with people.
I think there's also some residents that will struggle back to you when there is an issue that arises. I'm thinking of a meds adjustment for their bipolar wife, and suddenly we're getting calls at the house again. We're familiar with the family, but he can call Isabel and be like, it was a med adjustment. We're readjusting. We're figuring it out as we go. That's why there's so many calls. And then Isabel can send out an email to the department and say, I'm still working with them. It's been a year since we've had calls. I know there's been an uptick. Here's why.
Yeah.
And then we move on.
Yeah. And we more recently started sending kind of like review update emails about, I just started doing it monthly. We're like, hey, these are some people I'm actively working with. So if you're getting a higher number of calls, this is why, and this is what's going on. Because I think information is power, and the feedback to that has been
that's amazing,
pretty really positive, because they know. I think I can't imagine going to a call and not knowing what's going on
again,
but knowing
and
this
again.
person is familiar. So I think giving them that information, and again, it's in a way that's not breaking any type of confidentiality. It's very like high overview, but even that I think empowers them to feel better about how they respond. If not that they had any doubts, but I think it another tool in their toolkit essentially.
We have residents reach out to say, can you let the whole department know? Like, this is what's going on. Like, they're comfortable enough working
Is that newer?
Yeah, absolutely. With the unit and with Isabel, that they're like, hey, we know that you know what's going on. Can you let everyone know when they come out, like, what I'm working with here?
Been doing a little bit more of this work. I did, my first ride along, the officers like, do you want to get out of the car? It was different. I was on Citizens Police Academy. I'm like, no, it was scary. Do you guys ever get scared?
I feel my most confident on mental health calls. That I would say I do not get scared. Maybe not for the best, but
I don't know if I would say I get scared. I definitely feel like my adrenaline kind of go up, probably my heart rate. I think one of those people that in a crisis, like, I'm calm, but then it's afterwards and I'm like, oh no, what was that? So like last night we had a call that was pretty intense and fine through it. And then I got in my car and I was like, what just happened? Just because the one thing I've learned is like they move so fast and I don't move that way. So I think it's usually after where I can feel like the come down or the fear of maybe what could have happened, that's usually what, but I would say maybe domestics make me the most nervous. And I think that's part of my background and just knowing like what that looks like on the other side. But in general, I mean, I feel so safe with them. Like I have 100% confidence that they would never put me in a position that would jeopardize my safety. Like they're very on top of that.
We won't bring Isabel out to a scene that's not already secured. Like, we're not going to bring her into a middle of a physical domestic. We always assure that she's safe before we have her come in.
Yeah. Just amazing work. So what would you tell departments that are thinking about this, right? People are starting, chiefs are thinking about it. What would you say to anybody listening that
do it? Absolutely. There's so much benefit to it. And I think a lot of departments are worried about the pushback that comes with it. And it for us, at least, it was a very quick bump. They understood. We also are so fortunate to have Isabel, who fits in with our department. And I think it's so important to make sure that the social worker fits the needs of the department, but also the overall like attitude. It was a very easy transition to have her there.
you say pushback, you mean from the officers, not
From
the
the
community.
officers, correct.
So
Yeah.
people
The
welcome that
community
support.
We'll always encourage it.
It's the officer's skepticism or the relationship.
And like it wasn't a huge to do. It was just being a little bit cognizant of there's pushback. There's officers that think that this isn't needed, and it's very much needed as time progresses. We're seeing it's very much needed.
So you've seen the shift in officers
Absolutely.
in your own department who didn't think this was really relevant.
Right. I think it's with any unit that's just starting, everyone's going to be skeptical of it. Like, what's the point of this? Why do we have 4 guys coming off a patrol to do this job? But you just have to show your work, show what, you know.
Yeah. I would say embedded. If there's a way to do that, I think that's the best way. All the other programs I've talked to, that seems to be pretty the consensus from everyone I've heard is that it comes down again to like rapport and trust and them knowing who they're working with. Because like she said, like it's a family, and you want to have that trust and comfort. Because if it's not there, then that will impact like how we're responding to calls. So yeah, I would say that, and then to kind of lean into some of that pushback, like be curious about it. Like, what is the pushback? Some of the stuff I got, because I try to do a review at the end of each year, was like they think you're going to be adding more work onto them. And, no, I'm taking work away. Like, give me the like extra work. And I think when they finally started to see that, and that, you know, took time and patience, or they started to see the actual like results of those things, they were like, oh, okay. Like, I know this is, now I get it. Like, now I can see what the value is. So yeah, embedded and be curious about why people are hesitant about it. And I think also giving those officers a space to talk about that, where they feel like they're being heard. Like when I do feedback, I try to send it to everybody. It's, you know, and I know the whole rank and file and all that kind of stuff, but I think it's important for everybody to feel heard, especially if it's impacting their job.
And for you, understanding more of the culture, working with officers and patrol, but a front line to the chief and going out and about with the chief, how do you navigate that?
Our chief is like a very personable person. He loves talking to people. He loves going to events. He's my biggest cheerleader. I don't think my success would be possible without him. I think that having him as that support has been great. And we have a pretty like straight line. Like I go to his office and I talk to him and we do check-ins, and which I wasn't sure, because I was like, he doesn't care about like this one conversation I'm having with this person, but he does. He genuinely does care about those things.
More from the optics of officers. I'm talking to you.
Oh, yeah.
Are you going up the chain? Now I see you with the chief. Building that trust.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they know that like the relationship I have with them is different than the relationship I have with like the patrol officers. I don't know how to explain it. Like, I feel confident they don't think that they're telling me something and then I'm going straight to him. Like, I think they know that there's a line of what they can share with me and what they can't. And again, I think that just took time and trust. And
would that be a fair observation, Kate? Yeah. So would you, to people that are listening, or as we get into this space and staffing more co-responders or embedding mental health clinicians, I like your term slow burn. That seems, would you echo that as an officer to, how do you know you find the right one? Everybody's sizing everybody up.
Right. I think just during the hiring process, being aware of what your officers are like. I've met social workers from other districts that I'm like, they wouldn't fit in here. Like, I don't like them. Like, this is like, they would not work with us.
What made Isabel fit?
The slow burn.
The slow, okay, the way that she knew to
Yeah.
just take it slow.
Yeah.
Get to know you guys. Don't
And I
insert.
think, yeah. Even her office is decorated to her personality, and it's not in your face social work. It's like you see her, not a social worker. Yeah. And taking that time to not, like, you didn't come in like trying to rewrite policy. You were you took time to understand how our department worked before you were like, can we tweak this? Can we tweak that? It wasn't, you were trying to uproot our system.
No, yeah. I mean, and I think, again, I have a similar sense of humor. Like, I wear all black. Like, I think it's a person, like, I think those things fit very well into them. And I think, like, they can tell their jokes around me and I'm not like horrified. I'll like, oh, okay. Like, it's not. And I think, again, that's like that slow burn of like really sitting back and observing and taking it in before kind of pushing myself in. And I know it's different for each department, but like, we visited other departments and afterwards I was like, I don't want to do that because that didn't seem like it was received very well. And that was helpful to get perspective of other places. And granted, like, what we deal with in Radnor is very different than what Norristown deals with or like Upper Darby deals with. But I think at the core, you know, they're the same thing. So
I think you did a good job even now, but when you first started asking questions, like, explain this to me, explain why this call went this way, or explain these resources that we have to help build the background before finding what fits our department best. Because, you know,
because I think I came from Montgomery County, and how they do things in Montgomery County is very different than how they do things in Delaware County. So I think that goes back to like being curious, like not just the officers being curious, but like me being curious. Like, I have no problem asking as many questions. Yeah, because I think I'm assuming that helped them to see like I was curious, that I wasn't just coming in to say like, no, you shouldn't do that. Like, I'm curious about why that decision was made.
Mm-hmm. I really appreciate it. I think I'm, don't have any other questions, but is there anything I didn't ask that you'd want to share about your unit? What?
I think as you start programs, like shadowing I would encourage that. That helped me a lot, especially if you're starting at a department that's never had one. I think it's helpful to see how other programs are like how they're designed and how they're set up, because each one is a little bit different. I would say that, like, if you have the ability to do that, like, spend a day with another responder, because I think there's a lot of wealth in that experience.
Thanks. Any final words from you, Kater? Okay, you don't have to
echo what she said.
Okay. I really appreciate your time. It's amazing what you're doing. I obviously am very passionate about it personally. From the Lincoln Center we are, so it was really a great conversation. Thanks again.
Yeah, for having us.
TLC Connections is supported in part by the Lincoln Center for Family and Youth. Through education, counseling, coaching, and consulting, we empower people to make positive choices, meaningful connections, and transformational change. To learn more, visit thelincolncenter.com.